27th, 2021. Please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Please note, this Board of Supervisors meeting is being video recorded. First business is the receipt of the minutes for April the 27th, 2021. Now, Craig, I think that's a typo. You're talking about the receipt of the minutes for the last meeting?
April 13th. Yes, that was a typo in the original. We saw that and we changed it. So it is for last meeting, April 13th. We don't have the meetings for tonight yet.
Yeah, I would hope not. Any of the supervisors have any questions? Okay, can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next up, building and zoning. This is an update of the MRA group on the Spring House Innovation Park project and future planning. Nate, I'm assuming we're going to start with you.
Yes, sir. Nate Fox here. Can everyone hear me okay?
Sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Great. And Larry Stewart is also with me on behalf of 727 Norristown Road, LP. I'm going to have Larry give an update and summary on where things stand at SHIP and what our hopes are for the property. But the immediate issue is a request for a text amendment to provide some additional lab and research type uses and potentially some medical uses at the property, namely one being commercial bioprocessing or similar life science use, commercial biopharmaceutical manufacturing, or other similar life science use. And we'd like to also include a medical office and potentially an ambulatory medical or surgical center there, which we believe are complementary to the research and life science type uses occurring at the property. The caveats that other similar life science use provided as when the zoning ordinance was enacted back in, I believe, 1986 for this particular zoning district, actually 1987, the terminology was what was in place for research and development in 1987. They've really only contemplated office, lab, and engineering center, which was perfect for the uses at the time. However, with the innovation that's occurred in the marketplace and the types of uses that are on campus already and the prospective tenants that are interested in SHIP, these are the types of uses we believe can get us through the next generation until perhaps decades in the future. The technology or other scientific uses are further advanced than this. But that's our overall picture. And Larry, are you able to tell everyone where we stand and what might occur if we can successfully get this text amendment through?
I'll certainly try.
Thank
Assuming
you.
everyone can hear me okay.
I can hear you, Larry.
Okay, first I want to say hello to everybody. It's been too long. So it's good to see all these faces again. Hope everybody's safe and sound. I think the word for 2021 is pivot. We've heard that enough, and that's something that we've continued to do at Spring House. It pretty much was a daunting year for us, as you can imagine. One of the things that has certainly prevailed in this environment is life science requirements. We have been, I won't say inundated, but you all may be aware that Spring House Innovation Park has become one of the primary hubs of life science for life science companies in the Philadelphia region. It's well known up and down the East Coast at this point. And we are seeing inquiries for space from far outside the market. As you know, we have foreign companies at Spring House. We've had people move in from California. That influx continues. Because of it, the type of space that we're looking at on campus, the use of the space has evolved. Where once I thought, certainly in 2017 when we acquired the campus, I thought we may have too much lab space. Well, obviously I did not have a crystal ball because you cannot have too much lab space these days. We see increasing demand for that. In fact, Building 9 on campus, which we had planned as a office building to match Building 8, which is a multi-tenant office building, is now in the final throes of lease finalization for 2 major lab companies to take the entire building at 70,000 square feet. You all also may be aware that a spinoff from Merck has taken space, committed, signed a lease for Building 4 with some major lab space, along with the proposed expansion of Jefferson's bio processing facility, which they're expanding into I forget the exact terminology at this particular point, but a major expansion of that facility. With that, we will be seeing more life science and less office on campus. The proposed hotel, which was pretty much put on the was tabled last April. That building, which is sat gutted, is now being proposed for a tenant for the entire building in life science. I have certainly mixed feelings about that. I'm glad we can meet the needs of the market, but having a hotel on site was one of my goals, and it's still a possibility with Building 1. That's the one with the fins sticking out of it. That was the conference center also. So we're working on that right now. The other, I guess, significant change for that campus is that where residential was anticipated, and we had moved somewhat down the road with that concept, does not look like that will take place. That will evolve. The proposal, the master plan that we are working on for the campus shows that as additional life science facilities. So that is really the long and short of it for Spring House. We have. Sorry.
Can I ask you one clarifying point? So the residential plan that was discussed showed the residential within what we call the no-fly zone, or that 400-foot prohibited setback. Nothing right now is considered within that setback. That 400-foot setback remains. Is that fair to say?
Well, it's fair to say that whatever the setback is remains.
Okay.
Okay. So nothing is anticipated, of course. Everything would be by right.
Larry, we understand, all of us have been impacted by what's happened in mostly 2020. None of this could be anticipated. But someone corrected me the other day, and they said, go back 5 years and look on YouTube. And Bill Gates said 5 years ago, there's going to be a pandemic. And sure enough, I remember seeing that. I think it was a TED Talk 5 years ago. And he said exactly what was going to happen. He didn't give a date because he didn't know. And if you change a few of his nouns in there, we have exactly what we have today. So in some respects, it could have been anticipated. At least Bill Gates thought it could be. But things in environmental issues are hard to anticipate. But your commitments that you've made to us for the hotel, and I can understand where you cannot reasonably do that in this environment. I was actually looking forward to the hotel and a nice restaurant and to visit the conference center, right? Those seem to be very hard won, thought about, negotiated over, spent a lot of time and brain cells working on, and that didn't happen. On the other hand, the township pulled out the stops and you received the authority and the clearances to do all of those things. And we did execute our half of the equation, but we still don't have some of the things that everybody was anticipating would come out of that. And that one of them being, and it's kind of a safety issue in one respect, is the crosswalk with the flashing lights off of McKean Road. Just to pick one, I think there were 3. There could have been more than I think our engineer is on. He could give us the whole list, but we didn't get any of those either, right? So I just wanted to know what your thoughts were on executing those agreements.
Well, we're going to continue with our commitment to do how we execute is really a function of working with the township, since we don't have rights on those properties. But you're right, they were tied together. I get that. We committed to doing it, so we're going to do it. Whether the hotel goes or not, whether any of the other things happen. That was the commitment we made. So we will be sticking with that.
So do you have any idea when you might be able to address those commitments?
Well, we're prepared to address them, as soon as we can get together with whomever, with the township and the state, and to do that. We're prepared for that now.
Okay, Craig, could you look into setting up a meeting with, I'm assuming yourself, Larry, and Nate, or whoever your representative is, and whoever we need to be present in the township. I'm assuming our traffic engineer and whoever else you think is appropriate to set that up, because I'd like to get that executed sooner than later. McKean Road is a safety concern. I haven't received any complaints about it in the last several months, thank goodness. Traffic is down, which is always helpful for people trying to cross that road, but the YMCA is open. So the Y generates a lot of traffic on that road. So I'd like to get these issues addressed as soon as possible. Okay.
I will do that.
So Larry, and I don't know whether you're the right person to ask this, so Larry or Nate, I'm trying to understand the distinction. Now, we've talked in the past about manufacturing at your site, and for quite some time. And as you know, we're not all that excited about a factory in there producing 1 million bottles of aspirin a day or a week, whatever, truck traffic and all kinds of things like that. Now, life science manufacturing, as I understand it, is different. And I was hoping to have an explanation of what that would look like from your point of view. I'm talking about the manufacturing component,
Right.
none of the others.
Well, the term manufacturing is interesting, and I've had this conversation with several municipalities about what that term means in today's environment. What we're working with are companies that basically develop high value, low volume products. For example, a perfect example would be specialty drugs manufactured for someone with a particular DNA strand. So where they would take your DNA, and within this factory, if you want to call it that, it's more labs, is create a particular medicine just for a person. And then, of course, ship it out, whether it's FedEx or whatever. You're not talking about large, 18-wheelers coming in day and night. That is life science or biomanufacturing as the way it's used in the industry today. That's what's anticipated here on campus. That type of, again, very highly specialized, low volume um, um, laboratory production, if you will. I prefer to call it production, but the term out in the marketplace is biomanufacturing. So why reinvent the wheel?
Okay, all right, so, I've read some books on the subject. And, what I would like to do is make sure we, the board and the professional staff, understand exactly what that looks like. Right? So, you have a key campus here in the township. It's very important to everybody. Everybody's a stakeholder here. No
Correct.
one's moving anywhere, right? So I was wondering if it would be possible to have a tour or go look at a facility to determine what it is exactly they would be doing, or in what kind of volumes we're talking about. Basically, what we would like to know is, or at least I would like to know, is how disruptive this would be to, one, the people on McKean Road, because I'm very sensitive to that, but
Right.
to the township and the traffic environment in general. Because if you're going to bring in new labs there, I'm assuming you're going to do that. That's a good use, and,
Right.
and you have that by right. This would be a complement to it. And if we're going to see a complement to it, I could see this being a very high value complement in the world we live in today, a very important complement. And having Lower Gwinnett as a location where there's a locus of understanding and maybe life science and saving people would be helpful, I think,
Yeah.
to the entire country. But I would like to know or see exactly what it is that we're talking about. So I was wondering if it's possible that you might be able to arrange a field trip or a Zoom meeting or something so we can get a better understanding of exactly what we're talking about here. Because I don't want any misunderstanding about what manufacturing is, because manufacturing is a very undefined term.
I agree.
And life science manufacturing is relatively a new concept, or at least a new in public awareness, what that means. And I want to make sure staff and everybody understands that before we move forward. So I would, if you could look into that, that would be appreciated.
I'm sure we can arrange something field trip, like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Okay.
Larry, I'd like to also pick up on what Mark just addressed. You may not be able to answer this now, but if you're moving more to the life science type manufacturing, and there's a hold or an elimination of the residential, traffic impact on that site overall, within and without, based on a new concept that you divulged tonight. I know the staff and my fellow supervisors would like to know that. It sounds to me there would be a reduction in impact on McKean Road and within your site itself. But I'd like that confirmed if you have an overall plan from a traffic consultant or what have you, of what you anticipate on that site as you just spoke versus what you discussed a year and a half to 2 years ago.
Well, first of all, I want to address something that I know all of you are aware of. We had a recapitalization of the campus in December of 2020. No, I don't think it's a surprise to anybody. It was in the newspapers and whatnot. Basically, what we found was that the structure, the capital structure for that campus was geared one way, but the tenant requirements that were coming in were much, much higher than we had anticipated because of the type of tenants and the build out in the buildings. Um, as you probably know, we put a $6 million mini plant in just to support 2 lab buildings. So with that, we brought in a partner into the campus that's a national, that's nationally known, that is really just moving into the life science environment. But they have under ownership, I think it's $27 billion of real estate. I personally stayed in as a partner in the campus along with Mike Wojcicki. All the other partners in the campus were basically cashed out, and this new partner came in. They have their views on things. They're from Boston, and I'm learning to adjust. And it's been a few months now, and we haven't had too many fistfights because we are learning how to work together. They have big plans. They're a very high-end, high-quality owner of real estate. So granite's not good enough for them. They need Italian marble. So that has caused a process that we started for an overall master plan for the campus, which will expected to be completed within the next few weeks. And that, I'll be very interested in sharing with the township, obviously. And we've been working hard, tugging and pulling with our partners on this. I'm really happy with what I'm seeing from them. I believe the township will be happy with it. Notwithstanding that, when we talk about traffic, we talk about a number of different ways to look at it. One is, how would it look if we built out the campus as a by right as right now as office space? Well, obviously that would create problems all on its own. The type of labs and space that we're talking about, whereas office space, at least pre-pandemic, you would expect about 5 parking spaces for every 1,000 square feet. So figure 5 cars for every 1,000. With the type of labs we're talking about, it's about half of that. And that is, the space is spread out more, it's less dense, and obviously, people aren't standing on top of each other in labs. So that, from a traffic standpoint, it's a much better outcome. Again, I'm stating that, but as part of the master plan, we'll come back with the projections for traffic and whatnot. We know that's always been a concern for no matter what goes in there. And, we'll address that accordingly.
I was anticipating that type of answer, and I'm happy to hear from your description. And as you've always cooperated with the township, you've always been upfront with us, and we appreciate that. And I know you'll continue to do that.
All right, thank you. You can count on that.
So as far as your other uses, Larry, I've thought about it a lot. And I look at it the same way as I look at the prior uses you came to us for. The restaurant, the conference center, and the hotel. They weren't all at once, but they did follow on each other fairly quickly.
Right.
So I look at your request in the same light, right? So I think you've come to us before about manufacturing, and we didn't go forward to that. Then the plans changed. So I would like to look at these at one at a time. The ambulatory surgical center really concerns me because there's couple of them in the area here, and they get a fair amount of traffic, and it's a different use completely. Now lab space and biomanufacturing and so forth, you're all sort of in the same genre, But once you get into ambulatory surgery, that's a different use, completely different use. So I'm a little hesitant, but like Ed said, right? You're putting your best foot forward. You're coming to us with a master plan, which we've always wanted.
Right.
That's going back years, and I think that's a very interesting concept. So I'd like to explore the manufacturing first.
Okay.
And we need to have conversations. And once we understand what it is, we're going to have to let the community know too. We're going to have to let them see for themselves, because they're the most impacted are your neighbors. And we want to make sure that your neighbors have a good understanding of what we're talking about here. Everybody needs to be on the same page. So that's how I'd like to go forward with this.
I would just say that when it comes to an ambulatory surgery center, I do have quite a bit of experience with that in my other job as medical realty advisors. We own a building in Warminster with a 20,000 square foot surgery center in it. And most people think that you go past the building most of the time, you don't think it's occupied, because the volume is such, they're not turning people through like you might see in other types of facilities. Procedure, you're getting knees and hips done in these facilities today. And then a lot of interesting things happening. All I can say is that it's not your grandmother's ambulatory surgery center. It's the whole concept that has evolved, and it's very interesting. And I don't want to bore everybody with it now, but we can get together and talk sometime about it. Some really neat stuff happening with it. Also, with micro hospitals, which is a term that you'll be hearing going forward, and what that means. And because that's what you'll see getting built in the future as compared to these large facilities that you've been seeing in the past.
Okay, well,
Rothman has a similar type facility up in Shelfont, I think. And I know I've used it, and other people have also. And it's, you would never know much of an impact other than like an office. Yeah. And you go in and they have an attached hospital and so forth. So I imagine you're talking about that. But like Mark had said, and like I have said, you've been straightforward with us. You're willing to share your ideas and how things have changed and how they're continuing to change, and we appreciate that.
Yep.
So
thank you.
So Larry, here's how I would like to proceed, and then I'm going to give the other supervisors a moment to comment. Right. So we want to get the improvements done that we had previously agreed to. We want to get those done.
Right.
The next thing we'd like to see is a tour possibly of what we're talking about here. We need to be better informed on exactly what biomanufacturing is all about. And then we'd like to take a look at the master plan, and we're going to have to get staff involved to make sure we're going to have questions. We're going to have a lot of questions, just like we did previously on the hotel and the conference center and that type of thing. But I think we can move forward on all three of those things fairly quickly. And then we can talk about your other requests, right? But those three items, there's a lot on the plate there.
Right. I do want to say that the plan, we're still moving forward with a restaurant of some sort in the barn facility that's there. It's slated for that, and it's probably going to be a little bit nicer than, not that it would have been nice originally, but a little bit, more upscale, I guess, than originally planned for the barn. The fitness component, it will be going in, and as you may know, one of the businesses in the township, we've provided space to them over the past year, and basically helped him to hold on to his business while we were getting things prepared. So, and it's going to be a nicer facility than I had originally thought about. So that's great. I also anticipate the conference center, conferencing center, I should say, and we're working on the hotel component for that conferencing center. So I'm not exactly sure what shape that will take and how within that building, but it's something that the tenants have been asking for. It's what makes that campus special, and we're going to continue with that.
Okay, does any other supervisors have any questions they'd like to ask Larry or Nate?
I just had a couple questions. So Mark, I kind of agreed with what you were saying as far as a timeline or template as far as how we are going to proceed. I guess I'm wondering, is there a rush? Is there any reason why we can't, get a better understanding of what manufacturing they're talking about while they take care of the safety concerns around McKean Road, and then get the master plan to us so we can actually see and kind of go over those questions before we move forward with anything else? Or is there a rush, I guess, was what I'm asking.
No, I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. I don't see,
I mean,
I don't see there's an issue that there's a rush, at least that I'm aware of. I'm kind of in a rush to get the McKean Road walkway and those types of, because we've been waiting a long time for those.
absolutely.
Or not a long time,
Absolutely.
waiting a while. But
Yeah.
if Mr. Stewarty here is going to give us the master plan in 2 weeks, well, I want to make sure staff pours over that, because I really want to make sure we understand it.
I said a few.
And that the near neighbors
weeks.
have a good opportunity to completely understand what the totality of the plan is, because it's kind of been bits and pieces as we've moved forward in the previous years. So we'll have a better understanding, Mr. Swarty, of in totality what the plan is for the entire site.
I've as far as it being a rush, no. But as we found out, that building 2 would be a hotel if things had moved a little quicker by 2 months, even by a month, we would have been locked in and under construction, which may have been good or not. I don't know. But so timing is everything. As we say in real estate, timing kills all deals. So as it evolves, I'd like to lock in and go with it. Of course, no one envisions another major pivot like we've seen. But then again, who knows? So, but the time frame that Mr. Gray has laid out as far as working, getting the McKean Road work done, working with the township, even on Norristown Road, and a few of the other things, and really planning through that and getting it done, I think makes a lot of sense. And that's in the master plan, the stuff on campus. And we want to push it as fast as possible, but we're not trying to jam anything down anyone's throat. So we'll pull it all together.
Larry, it probably was a blessing that that hotel held off compared to where the number of hotels. My wife and I just left one this weekend, a national hotel that was already open, and we stayed there a year and a half ago. It just reopened. They were shut down for a year. So it may have been a blessing for you, but I think you're what you have said so far and what we've heard from you, you're going in the right direction with working with the township. You always have, and I definitely want to have the staff have a first shot of understanding and then explaining, and then the supervisors, and we have a great planning commission, of course. So thank you for your explanation.
Sure, you're welcome.
Okay, is there any questions from staff right now?
Could I ask a question?
Oh, please go ahead, Tessa.
Yeah, so Larry, I'm really glad you're still with the program.
Thank you.
so to speak,
Bye.
after the recap. So unlike Mark and maybe some of the other members, I do understand what biomanufacturing is. Did I understand you to say that the space that you're anticipating, the new labs and so forth, has already been reserved? Or is this in anticipation of new leases?
Building 9, which was put on hold, because last summer, we started up again and started it up as labs. And I anticipate that we'll finalize the 2 leases that will take the entire building, which is 70,000 square feet. That, we should have them finalized within the next week or 2.
Great.
And the building 2 up front, building 4 is fully leased except for one small lab that we kept as, one of the things that I wanted to do on campus was have space for people that were just wanting to start up, that really couldn't afford labs. So we have a space in building 4 for that. And that was just a personal desire. So for all intents and purposes, all our lab space that is under construction right now is spoken for, with a long list, with a list of people waiting. And Lower Gwinnett Township is a great location, a great place to be, and everybody recognizes that. And we're fortunate for that. Who knew?
We knew, but thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, I'd like to open it up for questions from members of the audience. Do you have any questions for Mr. Stewarty or Mr. Fox?
I think Mr. Toworski had a couple of questions, I believe.
Please, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Larry.
Hi, Michael.
You plan to reach out to anyone in the community? Because this is the first I'm hearing about any of this, and I've been pretty involved. So I'm just curious if you're planning to reach out to anyone in the community, or you're just going to present the master plan.
Well, I think what we'll do is present the master plan and they get comments. And if we have to tweak it or do whatever, we can do that. But the plan pretty much, flying down the road, we took a different approach. We're actually spending money on it. So that is, we hired a bevy of professionals and just flying forward. So, we'll open it for comment. Michael, I know you're interested in what we've spoken about in the past and how we move this forward. Happy to speak with you further about it. You can call me anytime. But we are, to the extent that it's prudent and reasonable to meet with the township, with the community, we certainly will.
What would be the reason why it wouldn't be prudent or reasonable to meet with the community if you're planning to be part of the community?
That sounds like a tricky question, but
just a straightforward question, Larry. Nothing tricky about it.
There's no reason not to, Michael. We've always been very open with things, and as we get our sea legs back underneath us from, we're very open to doing that. And,
Or why we're here tonight.
Yeah, I'm juggling between, almost 4 years of redeveloping that campus in one style. And now I'm balancing that with a partner who I have to balance also. It's the best way I can put it. So we'll work together on this as we always have.
Even more reason to maybe set something up with the community so you can explain this to them. I understand, Mr. Fox, that this is the forum for this, but as I'm sure you know, most people aren't aware of the board meetings or what goes on there. So in the past, we've, heard from you guys, and you spoke before us and gave us an opportunity to ask questions. It just doesn't sound like that's the plan this time, but that's fine. I mean, certainly you and your partners are allowed to proceed any way you want.
No, the plan isn't going to change. It's only been a
Yeah.
month since I've been out of my sweatpants to go out in public. So, as we get there, and we can open it up, we certainly will. I mean, it is, I've always believed, and, and again, with our partners in there, I said this at the very beginning, this is not our asset. This will be here long after we're gone. So it is a community asset. I believe that. I've always believed that. And we selected this particular partner because they got it when we put that forth. Still might be some arm twisting in some ways for us, but that's fine. That's what we bought into.
And Larry, Mike, this is the very, very first step. If there is an absolute no, and we want to see if there's a possible interest from the supervisors, rather than get input and stir have any public discussions for something that may not have a chance to go anywhere. So that's just a start.
Nate.
Thank you.
I just want to clarify, you're saying that you would want to present it to the supervisor before you got community feedback? With the
So
understanding we're representing the community. That's why we're here as the supervisors. So I think that they would want to be a part of that.
Sure. No, completely understood. It's just what is a normal practice whenever there's an ask of the governing body, which you absolutely represent the public. We want to talk through it at a high concept level and see if there's even an interest in having further discussions before going. And it's a chicken and egg question, I guess. We wouldn't want to go to the general public with a concept without asking the supervisors first, who have the decision-making authority, because the supervisors would then get calls on a plan that's out there. And it's we thought, and hopefully correctly, we thought this was the right way and the best way to start, just to start the process.
Yes, but as my fellow supervisor just mentioned, the supervisors in the past always like to get remarks and comments from the planning commission, from residents who may have had an opportunity to meet with a developer of any type, and we'd like to get that in advance for us to not utilize the talents in the community and the planning commission before we make or give you a favorable or unfavorable remark or comments. It is different from how I've worked over the last 35 years. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to change any processes here, Mr. Brandt. I'm agreeing
I
with
hope
you.
not.
We have a normal process here. And if Mr. Stuardi wants to present to us first, that's fine. But the community has to be involved, just like always, like we've done.
I want to make sure that's brought up.
Yeah, we're not changing this process. The order might change in a somewhat trivial way, but not the community involvement and not the overall process. I don't see any changes in that respect, unless Larry or Nate, you do.
No,
No.
we expected to.
No,
No.
okay.
All right. I think we're all on the same page then.
Yeah.
if you'll agree with that.
Yeah.
All right.
So is there any more questions from anybody in the audience?
I'm not saying anything, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for the update. Larry and Nate, we appreciate it, and we look forward to more discussions.
Thank you for your time this evening.
All right,
Thank you very much. Good to see
Thank
everybody
you
again.
for coming in front of us.
Thanks.
Thank you for the update.
Thank you. Well,
Thanks. Have a good night all.
Carol, for the record, could you make sure that it shows that we had an executive session earlier in the day about a personnel matter? Thank you. Next is the sewer easement agreement with 528 Gwinnett Avenue. Is our engineer here? Is Jim around? Jim Hirsch? Is he at the meeting today?
Jim Hirsch is not here today. This is just a simple sanitary sewer easement agreement where there's a new home being built. The lot that is being built on has the existing sanitary sewer going through that lot. The new lot owner is in the process of relocating that sewer line for the neighbor. So it will go down Gwinnett Avenue. And this is just a sewer easement transfer to the township, 20-foot sewer easement, so we can maintain that line.
Okay, so you need a vote on this, Greg?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, okay. Does any of the supervisors have any questions on the sewer easement? Okay, I didn't think there would be. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second? All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, thank you very much. Next up is Resolution 2021-9, authorization for submission of a grant application for PA Walkworks Program Grant. So Craig, can you talk to me about the Walkworks?
Yes, I know Chad Dixon is on the line. Chad gave me a call a couple days ago, I guess maybe a week ago now, about this opportunity. And what this would do is give basically a master plan for our bike and pedestrian trails throughout the township that we will, it would be part of the new comp plan that we are waiting to start, but this could be a part of that. So there's money out there for this, and if we are able to get that, that would help us with the cost of the overall comp plan for this portion of it.
Okay, so how much is the grant for, Craig? If we were to get the
Chad,
grant?
do you have that number? It's
The maximum amount that can be awarded is $20,000.
Okay. All right, well, if we get it, I'll take it. You know, trying to make our township very walkable, likable, and it's important to the quality of life here. So do I have any questions from the supervisors?
No,
Okay.
we should apply for every grant possible to help this development of this township, no matter what the project is.
Right, well, I think the township staff has got that message more than once, right?
Yeah.
I think we're all sending them emails about potential grants. They might be tired of hearing from us, but anyone that comes up, I think it's a good thing for us to do.
With that said, I'd like to make a motion to apply for the authorization to submit a grant application referenced 2021-09 for a Walkable Works Program Grant.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is authorization to review and submit an application to become a tree city. Craig, is there anybody here from the EAC?
not that I can tell on.
All right. Well, I can speak to this. The EAC is one of the committees that I have on the committee assignment. We all have committee assignments here, all the supervisors. The EAC in all of its forms goes back 12 years when we were Gwinnett Green. At any rate, the idea behind becoming a tree city is to promote trees. I mean, that sounds silly. Of course, everybody wants to promote trees, but this is a formalized way to do it. It promotes Arbor Day activities. It supports public awareness and education programs. It provides an annual report to the Board of Supervisors about what the accomplishments are for Tree City. Recommends in planting of the township trees at public properties. In other words, it's a organization that increases the awareness and the importance of trees. Now, most people know trees are nice to have and trees are nice to look at, but they do a lot of really good things. One of the things they do is hold back water. We have a water runoff problem in the Wissahickon Creek, and the more trees you have, the bigger your tree canopy is, the better off you are as a township. And of course, it provides food and it provides shelter to species, animal species. And, you know, native trees are better than non-native trees, but, you know, trees are better than no trees. They don't tear down any of your non-native trees. But the idea is to bring awareness in to promote educational learning on the importance of trees. Now, Lower Gwennet's always had a focus in trees, and we have a number of ordinances that are speak to the trees throughout our ordinance structure. And I think our attorney called them an assemblage or something that it can be construed that way. And to join Tree City, you've got specific actions you have to take, and they're outlined in this 7-page document. So the Tree City administration or group that's going to manage this is going to, at the township, is going to be the members of the EAC. So the EAC has agreed to take this on to promote trees in our township. Are there any questions from the supervisors?
Mark, is this the actual application? And who drafted it?
Yes, it's the actual application. It was drafted by the EAC and reviewed by staff and our solicitor.
It has not been reviewed by the staff or solicitor yet, Mr. Gray. That's what we're looking for, authorization to review this application and then submit it if everything looks good through the solicitor's office.
So we would have yet another vote, is what you're trying to tell me?
No, it
For
would
the
be,
application?
it would be authorization to review and submit the application to become a tree city if everything looks well with the solicitor's office.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Kathy?
Yeah, but I don't feel that I'm informed enough to cast a vote on this just yet. I do have some questions, and this particular application that was shared with us didn't have the 2 appendix that were referenced. So with all due respect, and I know the EAC is very anxious to get started on this, I would appreciate some time to ask my questions of the staff and possibly, if need be, to our solicitor, if you would oblige.
Yeah, we can table this. I don't see that there's a overwhelming timeline here that we have to meet. So do you think you might be able to review it once the appendixes are?
Yes, and I have already asked for them. So yeah, sure.
Okay, all right.
Mark,
So,
Chairman? Oh, go ahead, Tessie.
yes, Tessie.
so if we apply to be a tree city, then are we always a tree city, or do we have to renew this every year? What's the process?
Well, once you apply and you get accepted as a tree city, there are procedures in the application that is attached. And I agree doesn't look like the appendices are there. That we've got to comply and show that we continue to comply with the requirements to be a member of the Tree City. Right? So does the Tree City organization, is there a control for the Tree City application after it's submitted? In other words, do they audit us? I don't believe that they do audit us. All we have to do is attest that we are following the guidelines of the application. But that would be a good question for our solicitor to make sure that he agrees with that.
And then one other question. So this requires the township to furnish $2, I think, per citizen. I'm assuming that amount is going to go up with the rate of inflation or something like that. Do we have any preview of years to come, what that number is going to look like?
I don't believe, the last conversation I had with staff, we already, through our other activities, we already contribute that money. So it's not like the treasury will then be writing checks to anybody else, right? So we have to comply with the charter, and we do. So because we have all of these other programs that we have actions the township takes as part of our normal routine, like the parks and so forth, that we can use what we already have in order to comply with the terms of the charter. So it's not like we're writing new checks or have to come up with new funds year after
So
year.
there's not going to be a line item for Tree City on our budget.
We might break out it's possible we could further break out the tree tax or the Arbor Day expenses or that type of thing that we don't currently, but we're not anticipating that there'll be any meaningful change in our budget line items as a result of joining Tree City.
Yeah, well, so why don't we take this opportunity to make a budget line item and increase that budget by the amount that's required for Tree City? In
Because-
other words, don't co-opt what's already out there, but make a new budget item.
Well, we could do that. So we have line items that are out there right now. But what you're suggesting is to take those line items and create a new line item.
No, I'm suggesting add money into the fund for buying trees, not just necessarily use the money that is there earmarked for other items already. This is an opportunity to create a new line item that is dedicated for us to purchase trees for the township.
I don't have any particular objection of doing that. But as you can see on the screen right now, under second line, page 24, general fund item, conservation of natural resources. So we have line items in there. And so what I think I hear you suggesting is that we create a budget line item so we can track exactly what the Tree City group can spend, so we have a better control. Is that what I hear you saying?
Well, yeah, I didn't recognize that this was in the budget already, that that we already talked about the Tree City when we were going through the budget. I don't recall that, but what I was proposing is that we draw from the general budget the amount of money that's required to fund the Tree City and give it a line item so that it's in effect a new source of money to the EAC to purchase trees for the township.
So Mark, do I understand you as saying that the $2 per person tree expenditure is already being satisfied in our budget under this line item, for example?
Yeah, we already spend that equivalent amount. So
Right.
Tree City just requires that we spend at least that much per citizen. Well, we already do that.
Okay.
The other thing that we have to keep in mind is that, and Jamie represents Lower Gwinnett and our recycling program of the Northern Montgomery County, which I was a part of for 25 years. And we get a check usually anywhere from $25,000 to $30,000 a year. And it's something that all the managers in the past have the flexibility to use some of those funds as they see fit. I've never presented a check to any of the managers in the past saying it should be designated one way or the other. I think Craig and Jamie certainly can use some of that recycling fund money to do exactly what we've been doing. So I don't know if we need a separate line item, but I'd like to hear the comment of Craig and Jamie as for what they think.
I think this would just be a reallocation of existing funds. If you want to create a new line item, that's fine. It'd say Tree City requirement or whatever. It's just going to be a reallocation of the funds unless you want to increase taxes to support this, which I don't think anyone wants to do that. So
No, I think just reallocation and you've been. I think
So
we can-
you're saying that we're going to have to increase taxes because we want to fund an additional $20,000. I disagree with that.
well, I'm not sure what you were saying. You're saying not to use the existing funds, to use new funds. I don't have new funds. So I'm saying reallocate the existing funds. And if you want to create a new line item, we create a new line item and we reallocate funds.
I think
Well,
maybe
We can take this
test it.
offline.
I
I'm
think that-
suggesting that we double the amount of money that we currently have set aside to buy trees for the township. Now, maybe it is that the EAC doesn't have enough members to actually pull off spending that much money on trees, but since we're considering this, I think we could take the opportunity to also consider increasing the budget to buy trees to cover this Tree City requirement.
But I
And I
think Tess-
disagree that adding a $20,000 is going to cause us to have to go out and raise taxes.
I didn't imply that, Tessie. I think our manager implied, and I'm applying that the existing funds that are available now can be used to satisfy the request. So
The requirement,
why
yeah.
create a new line item?
Well, that's 6 of one and 1/2 dozen of another. We can take that up. And also the EAC budget is very generous too. They have a very generous budget as well.
So before we get too far off the rails, I was going to say that I thought that this was pretty straightforward because I remembered an individual who came and presented to us from Tree City USA back in October. Might have been the end of September, beginning of October.
December 8th.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Was that the EAC member?
Yes.
Larry Reed.
And he
Yeah,
went
there you
into
go.
to an extreme amount of depth at that point, explaining what Tree City could do, what it couldn't do. And we had clear knowledge that our existing ordinance already satisfied their requirements. In addition, that we had already spent the money that would be required. All that really needed to happen is that we needed to pass something to explicitly apply. And I think we postponed it from December. So outside of what Tessie just brought up, which is a new, completely different issue, and I think Tessie is merely trying to identify funds specifically related to Tree City and perhaps increase that amount of funds. that are specifically allocated for Tree City and the purchase of trees, which is how I'm understanding it, which wouldn't require an increase of taxes by any stretch of the imagination, just merely identifying those funds in an identified line item in the budget. Be that as it may, I think what I was trying to say is, what about this is difficult that we can't consider it today? Because this is authorizing them to apply. This is not saying we're now a member, we're adopting it. We already have the clear understanding, which was explained to us in December, that we qualify. We qualify based on our existing ordinances, based on our existing expenditures. We are essentially a Tree City without actually applying and naming it in name, correct?
I would say yes.
So we're postponing this for what reasoning?
Because I asked if I could pose my questions to staff. I don't feel like I've digested this particular document to a comfort level where I can vote on it. And I also haven't seen the appendices that are referred to in the document. But look, I can abstain, and if there's 4 votes here, certainly go ahead.
I just want to make sure, am I clear that this existed? This is the same thing we were talking about in December that we put off, correct?
Correct.
But this is, Larry just compiled this application. So this is the first time that the application was circulated because he just completed it and sent it on last Thursday.
Okay. And the appendages weren't, I just looked.
He did not include the appendices. So we did reach out to him, ask him if he could forward them. I don't know if it was just, he just didn't include them or what, but he had not sent them over prior to this meeting.
I just wanted to be clear because I looked for them in SharePoint and didn't see. So I was just trying to make sure I
Yeah.
understood what was happening in the trajectory of how we got here. Okay.
Okay. So for the sake of 2 more weeks, I think we can postpone this. So everybody has a chance to look at the appendix that are missing, and we can address any questions at that time. We're really close on this. The EAC has been working on this for well over a year, probably closer to 2. And so we just want to get this launched and proceed, but we can wait 2 more weeks. So let's just table this until the next meeting. So Craig, please make a note of that. Okay. Next up is public comments. Are there any comments from the public on any items that weren't on the agenda?
Hey, Mark, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Saeed Abbas, and I have a question or looking for an update for an item that's not on the agenda today, and I was just curious if I can bring it up.
Sure.
So on March 23rd, there was a update, Springhouse Phase 2 update that was provided by Stephanie Butler. I watched that video, and I had some questions on, what was presented, and specifically, she had mentioned that, the first submission for the Phase 2 will be submitted on May 2021 with a 30-day review period. And I had some additional questions on that expansion as well. I live in a house that's close to the Norristown Road, so I'm, very interested in, how it will impact, the Springhouse community. So I was curious if I can ask the question now, or should I send you via email? What would be the proper form?
You can ask your question now, and you can always follow up with a email, Sid. So you and I spoke a few weeks ago.
Yes, that's right.
Right. So apparently I didn't answer all your questions. So why don't you put forward your questions so we can all hear it?
Sure, appreciate it.
If that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So the specific question, Mark, that I had, after I spoke to you and watching the presentation video was one, if I would like to see the scale copy of the proposed changes to the Norristown Road layout, just so I know exactly, how much, it would expand, and, take into the current, landscaping that's out there? And then the second question was, when would we know what trees, if any, will be impacted? The third question was, when would we know which utility poles would be moved? And last question was, would there be any impact to the current walking trail?
Well, it's a lot of questions. So let me try to answer them the first one. So I don't have any difficulty asking our traffic engineer, Chad, to provide a copy of the proposed phase 2 drawings. And then Craig, can you have those put on the website so everybody can take a look-see at them?
I had this email come over to me this afternoon. I think through Mr. Tversky. Is that correct, Mr. Abyss?
Yeah, I spoke to Mike as well. You're
Okay, and I asked Chad to look into that, but certainly we can. We don't. Okay, good. I'll ask Chad to chime in on this.
Okay.
Sure. Should I go ahead now, or?
Yeah, go ahead, Chad.
Okay. Right now, we're currently in the process of preparing our first detailed design submission to PennDOT, which we anticipate making, as was indicated before, the end of May. So once those plans are finalized and we submit those to PennDOT, and certainly provide a copy of the township to make available to the public. So, some more exact information can be seen in terms of the exact limits of widening, potential utility locations, those type of things. At this moment, those locations aren't finalized, so I can't share any specifics this evening. But we can certainly do that once those plans are finished in May. And as we presented to the board back in May, we recognized that the utilities and the trees and the landscaping is a critical issue along that section of Norristown Road. It's going to take a lot of coordination and information sharing with the residents to make sure that they have a comfort level with what's being proposed and what's being required of us by PennDOT and PECO and other agencies.
Does that help, Syed?
Yeah, so I had marked that looks like end of May, they'll be able to share that information. Is that correct?
Correct. And again, that'll be our first design submission. PennDOT, the entire design process will take all of 2021. So there could be changes to what you see in the first design submission as we go through the review process with PennDOT and the environmental agencies and the utility companies. So that May design submission will just be the first snapshot of what the ultimate improvements could look like and what the limits of those are.
Got it. So looks like that would also answer my second and third question that, would that tell us, what trees, if any, will be impacted?
Yeah, so in the first submission, we'll be able to show how the trail, there is a small section of the trail on the western end of Norristown Road that will be impacted. So those plans will show that in relation to the widening that will occur. The utility relocations will identify initially what poles have to be relocated, but it could take a little bit of time to work with PECO in terms of what the exact locations of those poles will ultimately be and how trees may be impacted. We'll have those initial utilities identified in the first submission, but like I said, it could take some time to work out the exact locations with PennDOT and PECO before we have definitive answers. So working with the utility companies sometimes takes a little bit of patience, as it can be a little bit of a time consuming process.
Okay, thank you.
So Syed, I just want to let you know, after we had the conversation, I went over and took another look at those poles on the western end as it comes towards the intersection. I mean,
Mhm.
Chad was very elegant here, but those poles, I think there were 2, maybe 3 poles that are actually quite close to the road. And I'm pretty sure those poles are going to have to be moved. And now, in reaching back to what Stephanie had to say, it's up to Pico to decide
Right.
exactly what poles they're going to move, whether they move just a couple of them or if they think it's an opportunity to move all the poles that are there because they've got the resources allocated to it. So it's really not clear what Pico is going to do. But those poles on the western end, right before the intersection, they're definitely going to have to be moved because you can't widen it with those poles there. Now that could impact the path, and the path movement could impact the trees. So that's a possibility. The goal would be to have the least impact of the trees because those trees have been there for about 23, 25 years. So they've gotten pretty mature. If we can save those trees, we'd like to do exactly that because you just heard the explanation of Tree City. We try not to be in the business of taking trees out. At the same time, we're trying not to move or deprecate trails. We want to increase all of those. So, it's a balancing act. We got a lot going on at that intersection, but we have to widen it. We have to do something about the bottleneck there because there's no right-hand turn. So,
All right,
that's what we know.
all right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any
Can
more?
I ask a question on the same subject, Mark? It's Mike Twersky.
Sure, Mike, go ahead.
This is kind of directed to Chad, I guess. So I just want to understand 2 things. One, the process itself. You talked about the first submission that suggests a second or more submission. So I want to try to understand the process and general timelines. And then I'd also like to try to understand who has the final authority of whether to remove trees and what does that process look like? Like, will a truck just come out one day, an Asplin truck with a chipper and then the trees are coming down? Or is there some notice and I don't want to say an opportunity to be heard. I don't want to make this lawyerly, but I'm curious about the process and who has final decision-making authority.
Sure. In terms of the overall schedule for the project, you're correct. We'll make a first submission in May, and then we'll go through a review process with PennDOT primarily, but also the utilities and Montgomery County as well, because they have ownership of Sumneytown Pike on the other side of the intersection. So we're hoping in the preliminary schedule that we've laid out is that we would have our design approvals by the end of 2021. We would put the project out to bid in the spring of 2022 with the hopes of construction starting in the summer of 2022 and likely last through 2022 and into the summer of 2023. So that's the preliminary schedule that we've outlined for the township. Of course, that's subject to change based on the review process with PennDOT and the utilities and Montgomery County and others. When it comes to utility pole relocations, PICO has the ultimate final say. We will, as we go through our design process, we'll identify where we think the poles should be relocated to based on design guidelines that we have to follow provided by PennDOT. But ultimately, PICO has the final say. So it's just a coordination process that we'll go through, during the course of 2021. And we'll certainly, as I said, we know this is a sensitive subject, and we'll have the information available and make sure it's shared with the community in the neighborhood there before any final design plans are submitted for approval at the end of the process and before it's bid out.
Thanks, Chad. And I know you guys will give us notice. You guys are great about that stuff.
Mhm.
I just had, and this is the problem with lawyers, right? I have two follow-up questions.
Sure.
First, are you saying it's going to take a year to complete the turning lane from the Specter property to the end of Norristown Road at Bethlehem Pike? It's going to take 1 year just to do that little strip to make a turning lane?
Well, there's also construction work on Town Pike on the other side of the intersection in front of the shopping center. So the construction work will basically stretch from the intersection of Town Pike and the shopping center driveway all the way to the eastern end, as you mentioned, on Norristown Road. So the schedule I gave you is for that entire limits of construction. As we get closer to finalizing the design plans and putting together construction bid documents, at that time we'll have an idea of how it's going to be broken into phases and what parts will be done when during the construction schedule.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
I forgot about that other piece on the other side of on the Town Pike side of it.
Mhm.
And are there regulations or like how does PICO decide, okay, we're going to move the pole to here and we can't have a tree within X feet of the pole? Or is there anything like I guess I'm trying to figure out, are there actual guidelines that we follow? And this is that's my question, but obviously for the board, for that back cul-de-sac, for the Abbas family and the Calabretta family and the other families that live in that back cul-de-sac and coming forward into the Cleaver Circle, that's the only barrier they have, and it's these old natural growth trees. Now, when the development was built, the township asked us to put an emergency road in there, and the developer did that, and he took out a bunch of old growth trees, and then they decided they didn't want the emergency road. And then they put these young trees in there. So it took 10 years, 15 years to get them even sort of built up. And, look, the board knows how serious it is. That's the only buffer those folks have. And now we're adding a lane to Norristown Road. So I guess, so that's my sort of statement to the board. And for Chad, are there sort of regulations or guidelines as to how close a pole can be to a tree? Some of those trees are big.
Yeah, there are guidelines that PICO follows. I don't have them in front of me tonight. My understanding is that it all depends on the type of transmission wire on the pole and the amount of sway that's been designed into the wire and a bunch of other factors related to utility engineering. So there's not a one size fits all from what I understand in that regard. And we can certainly, as we get into the process with PICO, we can certainly ask them those kind of questions as it pertains to their facilities, that are on those poles along Norristown Road.
All right, thank you so much, Chad. And I guess there's no way to get PICO to put that little strip of poles underground, right? I mean, that would be asking way too much.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen.
Nice try, Mike.
Got to throw it out there.
But Mike, I recall that there's a special needs child, maybe she's grown now, on that area of your neighborhood that you were referring to?
That cul-de-sac, there might be, I don't know.
Okay.
I can't think of the house.
Okay. But yes, we're very sensitive to that area. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I know you guys are on top of it. I just, wanted to.
Thank you for reiterating it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, is there any more members of the public that have any questions or comments?
Yes, Kathy Pagano has her hand up.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I just had a quick question. The township put a notice out about the aggressive driving, and I believe that was going to April 23rd. Correct me if I'm wrong. I just wanted to follow up if you all have gotten any feedback. Was that impactful? Other than my email that I submitted to you all, have you gotten any other feedback?
Paul, can you take that question?
Hi, Kathy. Yeah, what is it that you're specifically asking? I'm not sure.
Well, the township put a notice out, and I know that communication, we're trying to get better at that. So I took it upon myself of taking that information and posting it to different sites to get the word out. So I just wasn't sure if you had gotten any feedback from the township, positive, negative, like has it worked? So I just kind of wanted to get some input on that.
So, well, to be honest with you, I've got no feedback from any residents about it at all. We've concentrated on some specific areas, including, Brookside, Penn Ambler. And I'm assuming, you've noticed and other residents have noticed that our speed signs are up. So we'll have a month of data ending next week. I plan on releasing that information the end of each month. So the following meeting, we'll have some information as far as how our speed signs are doing. We have 2 speed signs out, and we also have our speed trailer out for the first time this year. So we'll have a month's worth of data on all of that. We have not seen any indication of it working, not working. Complaints are really relatively few. So that's the best answer I can give you on that, to be honest with you.
Okay, and then I had sent an email with some feedback that I was getting from residents from my communication, and I submitted that to you all. I'm not sure if that had gotten to the Board of Supervisors to review, but a new chief, but there were definitely some feedback that I got from residents on some problem areas. So
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I thought you were, and then I
Yeah,
just
in
thought
addition to my email that I submit, I wasn't sure if you got anything else.
no, there's been nothing else that I'm aware of. Nothing's been sent to me specifically.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any more questions from the public? Okay.
Not
Man-
saying any.
Managers report.
I have nothing.
We got to get you busier, Craig.
Yeah. I was just thinking that.
Yeah, I'm sure you were. Supervisors' comments. Mr. Brandt.
Reminder about the recycling Saturday. I think it's the 15th, Craig,
Yes.
8 a.m. to
12
12 noon.
Yes.
And we're set up whereby the residents do not have to get out of the car. And you and your family will be emptying the emptying the cars of electronics and also paper. So I just wanted to keep on pushing that. I know we have another meeting before then, but I just want to keep on pushing that particular Saturday, and I'm glad it's back. There's a high demand for it. That's all I have, Mr. Gray.
Thank you. Kathleen.
Yeah, I just had a comment with regards to the communications subcommittee meeting that was held earlier in April. In the minutes, there was reference to releasing press releases to the Ambler Gazette and the Patch. And I think we should add, I'd like to add the Around Ambler site there on social media to receive those same press releases.
Good idea. I think we might have talked to that, but I don't know that we ever made.
Well, it wasn't in the
Right.
minutes, so
Right.
the Amber Gazette and Patch were, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think it,
No, that makes a lot of sense.
and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Tessie.
Well, I do have a question for the staff. When can we expect the newsletter? Has that already been mailed?
It That is mailed. We've received the newsletters for the nursing homes, and we delivered them this week. But I'll say they're mailed. That's all I can really say. I don't know where exactly they are in the process, but we've received, I don't know, 400 of them to distribute to the nursing homes or the retirement communities. So they should be
Yeah.
seeing them soon.
I just, I know we had a tight deadline to get that out. And I was just wondering if people are gonna see it in time to take advantage of the recycling day. Hopefully that'll get to people's mailboxes. The last thing is, I'd like to discuss in the future, Supervisor Brandt, your suggestion, I think, of using the recycling money, not just putting it in the general fund, but maybe earmarking it for specific environmental concerns. So we can take that up at a future meeting, but I'd like to give that more thought and take advantage of those funds and put them toward a direction which supports our environmental concerns in the township.
I have no problem with that, Tessie, at all. I think our next meeting, we'll get a report from our manager and assistant manager and see what they come up with. But I don't have any problem with that. I just know over the years, and it continues, that it's great to be able to bring a check for the efforts of the residents to our manager and assistant manager, and have them use the funds as best as it can be. So I have no problem with Tessie if whatever they recommend to us. But I'm in favor of, supporting, the tree fund. And if we have to pass something, then fine.
Very good, Ed. Thanks
Yeah.
for your support.
No, I support it. No question.
Thank you. Thank you, Tessie. Danielle?
I just wanted to take the time to, I guess, congratulate Gwinnett Mercy University and St. Charles Borromeo Seminary on their official signing of the sale of agreement and welcoming them to Lower Gwinnett Township.
Great, thank you. I just have two comments, and Tessie, one's for you. Biomanufacturing is a relatively new concept. I'm sure in the medical sciences, it's probably a decade or more older, but you're uniquely qualified to help us understand what kind of manufacturing might be possible over at the ship location. So I would hope that you could educate us to the extent possible, so we have a very good understanding of what it is that they're going to do over there, or would like us to approve them to do, because I think that's very important. I'm sure there's all kinds of nuances to that, and we need to understand those. Just make sure we can have an informed decision. Next up is our bridge. We have a walking bridge now at 63 and Tennis. The bridge is installed. The trail is not open yet. Craig was nice enough to send around a picture of the bridge sitting on its foundation. Now, that only took us about, 10 years, Craig, to get that bridge? Maybe it was less than that. It took quite a while to get that bridge in place, and those bridges are very expensive. We received some grant money for that, and I don't know what the total number was. Do you have the aggregate number for that bridge without the grants, Craig?
Well, we did not receive any grants for that. That was the holdup. We
applied a number of times.
We applied for at least 3 or 4 grants, and they were all turned down. So we just went ahead and did it.
Okay, what was
I can provide that. I don't have the final number in front of me, but I can certainly bring that up at the next meeting.
You know, so we know they're expensive, but it's a bridge that should last a long, long time. If you have an opportunity to take a look, you can see it. It's right on 63. So now we have connected that corner of the township where Upper Dublin, Horsham, and Lower Gwinnett come together. So there's about 70 houses or so, and so those people can now walk or bike from their neighborhood over to the Ambler YMCA or connect up with the trails behind the township. I mean, there's all kinds of places and opportunities now that all of those the folks in that neighborhood can now get to.
Our first press release.
That'll be our first press release, right? Right. We got to have a ribbon cutting ceremony over there. And this is not the first bridge Lower Gwinnett has put in. In the last 12 years, I think this is bridge 3 or 4, right? For walking bridge.
I think 4, yes.
Yeah. So so we're connecting up all of the neighborhoods, and you know, it's the quality of life all of us want. So we
So
protect the
Penland,
trees.
excuse me, I'm sorry, Penland Pike, Penland Woods, Welsh Road, where's the fourth one?
Well, the one that connects Gwinnett Hunt to the new,
Oh, right, okay. Behind the carriages.
the carriages, yes. Carriages. I
Okay.
couldn't think of the name. Yes. Carriages to Gwinnett Hunt.
Okay,
So
thank you.
it's a lot of work from staff to get those done, but yeah, you do it every day. You put one foot in front of the other, you know, and after 20 years or so, you have a well-connected Lower Gwinnett, and we're pretty well connected right now, and we're going to continue this effort. It would be nice to, there's some other trails I'd like to get in, but you know, they take effort. They, you know, it takes a while, but make sure it's on the agenda to get these things done, and eventually it happens. And this is one of those occurrences. So I don't know how many people live there, but 70 houses or so is a lot of people. So that's all I've got to say. Stay safe out there, everybody, and thank you for attending. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.